Alright, so this is a video for people that scored high in neuroticism and low in conscientiousness on the big 5-factor model of personality. I personally scored that way as well. I made a video, talked about it a bit, but I'd like to just kind of present to you some strategies that I've implemented that have helped me boost the strengths of my personalities and mitigate for the weaknesses. Alright, ray of hope number 1. Remember that every personality distribution or temperament has its strengths and weaknesses. So you might think, well, what the hell is the strength of having high neurotic traits or experiencing a lot of negative emotion, which is what neuroticism is? Well, there is a good thing. That means that you assess risk much better than the average Joe or Jane. You know, and that's really important. Like, there's a couple of things that would be missing in the world if neurotic people didn't exist. For one, we would be missing a lot of great pieces of art, masterpieces. Because a lot of like beautiful paintings, beautiful songs, beautiful books are neurotics trying to beautify and come to terms with their neuroticism. And it's like kind of sad, but it's also really, really beautiful and touching. Second thing we'd be missing is like, what kind of world would it be if we didn't have people that were inclined and attuned to risk? Like, everybody would be fucked. So it's a weird superpower to have, but being high in neuroticism still does have its benefits. Conscientiousness is another thing that people get hung up on. Like, well, I'm low in conscientiousness, I must be fucked because I'll never accomplish anything. It's like, well, no, that's not really the truth. If you're low in conscientiousness, it does mean that you're a little bit more, I guess you could say, a little bit more unstructured than the average person. But it also means that you're more flexible. And I would argue that it means that your life is going to be a bit more dynamic. Ups and downs and different paths that you take and things like that. And by the way, if you're an artist or if you're a creative, it's not real good to be high in conscientiousness, because conscientiousness can lead to rigidity and tyranny. And you know, that's kind of the negative conclusion of high conscientiousness. So the idea here is to work with your personality, but still to accept it. It's just a variation of neutral traits. Like, there isn't one that's better or worse than the other. It's just a variation of neutral traits. The issue is when we project and label things as wrong and then reject ourselves in the process. So, ray of hope number 2, conscientiousness buffers neuroticism. So when you think about the worst part or the hardest part of your personality, it's the fact that you experience all this negative emotion. And we've already talked about how that could be a good thing or what the utility is in that. But let's think about it this way too. If we boost our conscientiousness, there's evidence that the more that we boost our conscientiousness, the more that we lower our neuroticism. So there's ways to work with this part of your personality. There's ways to work with every part of your personality. But the idea is rounding it out. So the logical next question for this is, well, okay, how do I boost my conscientiousness? Let's talk about that. Ray of hope number 3. Make a schedule. So Jordan Peterson talks about this a little bit, but I'll get into some anecdotal evidence that I have. When we make a schedule, there's two ways that we try and make a schedule, and usually it's like this. One, I make a schedule, and I make it on who I think that I'm supposed to be. Who mom thinks I should be, who society thinks I should be, blah, blah, blah. I have to be sexy, so I'm going to work out and eat broccoli and do yoga and, you know, write in my journal or whatever. And we make this really unreasonable, ideal schedule that really isn't that fun for us and that judges the shit out of us when we inevitably fail. So that's one way that people make a schedule. There's another way to make a schedule that can still boost your conscientiousness and also will reduce your neuroticism, and that's to make a schedule that you would want. A schedule of your life that you think would be interesting and compelling. A schedule that takes into considerations the rewards that you really like and the responsibilities that you're willing to enact. Right? So for me, like, I want to get in shape. So one of the things that I've done is I've made a schedule with boxing where I go and I do my boxing sessions 4 times a week. Sometimes I fuck up, but usually I'm able to make it. And afterward, I always give myself a cup of coffee with some honey in it. So the idea is to envision yourself a week from now. Think about what the best possible scenario could be of what you can realistically accomplish in a week, and then try and make a pathway to that is your pathway and that is entertaining and fun for you. You know, make a schedule that you would want. Ray of hope number 4. Assume that everything is going to be okay, Because it most likely is. So because you're high in trait neuroticism, you have a tendency to catastrophize most situations beyond what is actually acceptable for that situation. So for instance, your girlfriend is out late, so she must be cheating on you, right? Or your boss says a negative comment to you, so it must be that he's going to fire you sometime soon. Like there's most of the time, and tell me if you can relate to this, but you can't really tell me, but maybe comment or whatever, but like most of the time, the biggest issue is not really the thing that we were worried about, it's all of the worry that we had leading up to the event. Give yourself permission to start being skeptical of the things that you worry about, to start being skeptical of your own thoughts and your own conclusions about how things are going to turn out. You know, give yourself permission to let go of 90% of the things that you think you need to fix or ruminate on or control. Ray of hope number 5, this is more of a way of thinking and not really a strategy. Just remember here, the goal is balance. You know, we want to be well-rounded as individuals, but there's no one that we have to be. There's no temperament that is better than another temperament. You know, it's like, first of all, you're not here to impress anybody. Like, you're not on earth with your short little life to like get people's approval or impress people. You're not even here to impress yourself. The only thing that you're here to do is use the colors and the palette that you've been given and paint the most compelling picture that you can possibly think of from your own being, if that makes sense. You know, and if your base point is this, well, I don't like my colors. You know, like, I'm high in neuroticism and I don't like that color. Like, that's, what the hell are you going to accomplish with that? Like, what is the point of that strategy? First of all, it's just fundamentally wrong. But second of all, like, why would you want to think that way? Like, I know that your life is probably difficult because I scored high in both these things too. I scored high in neuroticism and low in conscientiousness. But there's still good aspects to each personality trait. And your job is just to find ways to paint with the colors that you've been given. And find ways to paint a picture that you would actually want to look at, you know, and that you think is kind of beautiful in some significant way. So I hope this was helpful to you. Please comment on ways that you work with this part of your personality, you know, because I would be curious. I'm trying to refine my understanding too. But you're going to be fine. Just get busy painting a picture that you think is beautiful and worthwhile. And I'll see you at the next video. All right. High five.